gonna get naked. Hey guys! Hey guys! Hey everybody! How is everybody? I'm so excited to be here. I'm so sorry that I am a little late. That is a-okay, right? We just roll with the punches. Ooh, 111 people are on right now. That's beautiful. Yay!
Oh
Hi
my gosh.
guys!
Okay, cool. We're doing it. Wait, I want
We're
to
doing
match your
it. You look
filter.
beautiful.
Thank you. So do you. I was
See,
like,
I like the filter.
yeah, wait, you can do it. Well, everyone hops on. I'm going to figure this out. You're using Bali mood.
Yes,
Okay.
that's like my favorite.
Are my ear pods sounding okay on your end?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
cool. They're a little funky at times, so I just want to make sure. Ooh, are
No,
we both in Bali now?
I think so. Ooh, I like your background. It's like creamy.
Yeah, my walls.
I love it. How are you today?
I'm good. I miss
Good. I
you.
miss you too.
Yeah, I
Oh
need
my
to
God.
come down there soon.
Yes, please. Yes, we need to. I want to do the tops, but
Oh, like the fingers? Oh, heck yeah, I'm down. That's gonna
yeah, guys,
hurt
if you
even
haven't
more.
seen already, Amber did my palm tattoos. These are very beautiful, intentional tattoos that she did for me, and it was a beautiful experience. If you've never been tattooed by Amber, you definitely should go and get that. But I digress. I would love, so today, you guys, we're gonna have everybody. We have you all here because we wanted to. Actually, Amber came to me with the idea of creating a work-life balance conversation because she has these conversations, and I'll let you tell them, Amber, about how this came about. But creating work-life balance in the tattooer world and how we can go about doing that. So, Amber, please let us know
Yay.
how you
Thank
got
you.
here, what you're doing.
Yeah, so I had a week where I had like three artists come to me and just tell me how overwhelmed they were with work and certain aspects of it as far as booking or like taking days off. And I realized like, oh, I was there not that long ago too. And I think it wasn't until last year that I really sat with it in a good way to kind of organize where I'm placing my time and energy and how it's being managed.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to reach out to you because I know you do so much to help tattooers. And I think this also applies to just any entrepreneur or
Absolutely.
any workaholic, and
Yes.
how important the balance is between work and rest, work
Mhm.
and play, and what that actually does for your work.
Absolutely. I think that when we had spoken about it last week, when we about work-life balance, like a lot of people don't understand, and a lot of tattooers or entrepreneurs or tattoopreneurs is what I like to call us, is that
I like that.
yeah, just because we're so much more than just artists, we do everything,
Yeah.
and especially the just like the tattooer, a lot some people have like help with emails and things like that, but a lot of us do it all ourselves: the marketing, the finances, the social media, all the things. And so
Mhm.
having that rest and reset time is actually what gets us to be more creative. And we had this conversation last week where it was just like, by giving ourselves that self-care and self-love time, we actually gain more in the creative realm. We actually tap into that part of ourselves that can be really, really outdoing our own creativity at this level. If we're here, we're going up here. And
Mhm.
so I think that how do we get to that point? How do we reach that point where we're like, okay, I need rest before I reach burnout? Like, how do I do that? So what are some ideas that you had come up with about, because last time we talked about boundaries and organization,
Mhm.
and what would be like your boundaries, or how do you keep organized to give yourself that self-care time and that time for yourself to create that creativity time?
Yeah, I think the first point you made is really important too, of like a lot of people do have assistants and people to take some of the load off, but when you're, beginning in the industry, you have to work towards that and figure out when that's something you can manage. And up until that point, you have to basically be your own assistant, your own marketer, your own everything. And so I think learning how to do a lot of it on your own and also knowing where to place other responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the best way to stay organized is for newer tattooers who are trying to figure out their schedule to give specific days off. I remember
Mhm.
when I first started tattooing, I would just kind of like make sure I had at least a day off a week. It didn't matter which one, just
Mhm.
one. And basically be tattooing every other day besides that. And
Mhm.
that's not a balance. It didn't give me, because some weeks you're tattooing like 7 days in a row because it goes from one week to the next. And it's recognizing that, your body, your mind, your creativity needs space in between all of this to kind of rest and recharge. And you also need time to do your designs. If you're rushing to do designs, that can like fall into the work quality, and we don't want that. We want to get better. So I'm realizing too, like, oh, I want to do bigger pieces. I want to do different styles.
Right.
I need more time to invest in the design, in the studying. And if I'm working all the time, I can't do that. So you're kind of
Mhm.
preventing yourself from growing.
Mhm.
And so I think if people can at least allot like 2 days off minimum, but I think like 3 days is the best for a creator because you need a day to do your work even outside of work. So I've noticed like friends that come to me aren't doing that. I think that's the first step. And I think the second step is knowing when to shut it all off, knowing when to stop booking people, give
Mhm.
yourself a break. And no one really teaches you that when you become a tattoo artist. I was always like, okay,
Mhm.
am I supposed to book out for a year or 2 years or 2 months? And everyone does it differently. And I think finding what works for you before you fall into some trap of like, oh my gosh, I'm booked out for a year and like I want to take a vacation and I can't.
Yeah. I think that as far as like we go, we always don't think about that far ahead in the future. And I find myself doing this. I did this a lot before I started stopping, like where my books start and end. When do we do that? And so for me, it's like my own way is every 3 months. I'll book out for three
Mhm.
months in advance. That gives anybody I have to do second sessions or third sessions on a chance to come back in without having to wait 6 or 7 months, and then
Mhm.
also books me out for another 2 months ahead of that. And so when that happens, I find that like 5 month period is like a perfect time because then I'm allowing myself to give if I want to take a vacation. So I think that it's really prudent for people that find that balance, and that they do, just even though they might not feel like they want to take a vacation in that time, to just plan it anyway. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And so I think, oh, hold on a second. What's that noise? Yeah. Sorry, Jackie's listening to us right now, so I'm hearing the
Oh,
background
I could hear yourself. Nice, Jackie.
Gosh, Jackie. I'm like, I hear myself talking somewhere.
Am I going crazy?
I was going a little crazy. But like I was saying, it's like you find your balance on where you think you should stop. And then for me, it's like since I do larger scale pieces, I do book out another 2 months. So it's like a 5 month period. And after that 5 months, I'm like, okay, in that time frame, where can I give myself like 6 days off in a row? Like
Mhm.
where, if
Mhm.
it's a staycation, and preferably for tattoo artists, if you can, this is not possible for everybody that has families and things like that, but if you can, don't do staycations because we don't know how to not work. We don't know how
Yeah.
to chillax. And that's the one thing
Mhm.
I've learned about myself. So thankfully, I live in San Diego, so close to Mexico. So it just gets me away really quick. Or I can just go to the
Yeah.
mountains or go into nature. And that's something that I think as artists, the best and most beautiful way of getting back to creativity is just sticking your feet in sand, water, grass, whatever it is,
Mhm.
because taps us back into the creativity. Because I feel as artists, we are a little bit further tapped into the nature of things,
Yeah.
and we are very as feelers of as tattoo artists, especially since we are creating art for people, and we have to feel them out and understand them and empathize with what they're trying to say to us, their stories, and we interpret that through art. We
Mhm.
are much more feeling, we are very in tune with source and with the universe, as I'd like to say. And I know a lot of you guys out there are super woo woo, but You'll get into it. Don't
I'm
worry.
right there with
We'll get you
you.
there. Me and Amber will get you there. But I do think that it's one of those things that that's what will tap you into it. So take the time off, plan the time off, even if you don't think that you're going to want to take that time off, because the worst that happens is when you're like, I'm so burned out. I still have 8 weeks of working and I can't just move these people. So
Yeah.
say like that's where you get the organization into it. It's like, okay, I'm gonna book out for 3 months. When in those 3 months can I give myself like some really good time off and then keep going from there?
Yeah,
So
and I think it's about changing values too, because
yes.
when I hit burnout several times in my career,
Hmm.
I would sit there and think like, you did this to yourself. You make your schedule. So why is this happening and why are
Right.
you mad about it?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, because I wasn't putting value on time away, on time alone. I was putting value on work and productivity. And then my work and productivity was becoming stressful. And it's like, we love our jobs.
Right.
So if you absolutely love your job and you're being stressed by it, that's a red flag that it's time to start like sending energy elsewhere. And I agree, going out in nature is the best thing. As creators, we need to feel inspired. We need like space to just exist. Because when we're just existing and we're not doing anything or drawing anything and our ideas are just kind of floating around, that's when we get the best ideas.
Mhm.
And so having days where, and my acupuncturist actually told me to do this. She's like, have days where you just do nothing. Like, don't read a book, don't plan to clean the house, don't even do that kind of stuff. Like, do nothing. And those days are the days where I get the most clarity and the most creativity.
Yeah. I
And then,
I'm right there with you, especially in the productivity part of it. Like a lot
mhm,
of us as Americans, like even a lot of us that live in here in America, where we believe that the masculine energy of productivity is the worth, is that creates our self-worth
yeah,
is how much we can get done. And that's the value and the belief that we have to switch as a whole and as a collective, because there are a lot of people in other cultures that don't see it that way, where they're like, oh no, rest and relaxation is a big part of the work and the productivity, like having that balance. And where
hmm,
we as like a very, patriarchal society and things like that, where we put so much of our worth in productivity, like especially for women, we're supposed to have babies, have full-time businesses, look like goddesses at the same time after having a kid. Like we have all of these expectations, and for men too as well, but it's just like we put so much effort and time and worth in this productivity is in this external aspect of it, where
hmm,
we lose sight of the internal part that actually keeps us connected to nature and connected to our creativity. And where
hmm,
that's where we have to find that balance. And that's the rest and relaxation is actually so much more important than the productivity and all that other stuff, because it's like, what do you remember when you're, it's not the productivity aspect, it's like, oh, that time I got to rest. But when
yeah,
we give ourselves that balance, we can really find peace and good flow in like,
yeah.
wow, I can really be productive and rest at the same time and do all the things and just have peace and happiness within and without. So
I love that you put it in those terms because I'm gonna get extra woo-woo. So it's like the yin yang energy. So yin is the feminine, it's the coming in, it's the resting, it's the building,
yes.
and the yang is the out. So it's like as a creator, it's like you need to pull things in to get these ideas, to have these concepts, and then you still need that out energy. It's very important to like create something out of it. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I have all this, now what am I gonna make? But if you're not pulling anything, you're trying to create with an empty hand. And it's
Yes.
like, oh, that's the worst. And then you start beating yourself up as an artist, and
Mm-hmm.
that's
And then
not
it goes
fun.
down. You have that like
Hmm.
that inner critic, and then you're constantly creating and creating. And this goes for even social media and posting. We allow these kinds of things to get in our way when it really should just be in flow, just like our creativity, just like for our art and everything like that. And so
Hmm.
I've had to find my own balance in that and understand why it is exactly I'm doing the things that I'm doing. How can I be more intentional with the things that I'm doing, instead of looking at it as like an only way of trying to make money or because money equals happiness, or productivity equals money equals happiness. And so it's like
Hmm.
we gotta break this mold on that linear way of looking and
Yeah.
start looking at it from like a yin and yang, masculine and feminine balance of how we can actually create a life that we love and a life and a business that we love. So
Yeah.
I love that. But let me
Yeah.
ask you another question. What would be another thing, like as far as like a boundary, besides just giving yourself some time off, how many days we work, and like how to close out your books and things like that? What would be another thing that you would offer?
I would say boundaries come up in, don't work on your days off.
Yeah,
Respect your days off. Have
yeah.
boundaries around
Having
those.
integrity with your word. Like if you're gonna say something, have integrity, keep to your word, and then like go and flow with that. That makes a lot of sense for
Yeah,
sure.
and that's us respecting our own boundaries. It's like, and
Mhm.
we'll take it as if it's outward, like, oh, I have this client that really wants to get in and they're like being pushy. So then you start to feel like they're not respecting your boundaries. Like they don't know your
Right,
boundaries. You
right,
know them. So you have to be the one to be like, you know what, I don't work on those days, but in a few weeks I have this day open that I do work and we can do it then. And if they don't want to wait, that's unfortunate, but most likely they will because they want their tattoo and they want you and they want their work. So we tend to think that all of these decisions are like life or death kind of things, and it's like
right, right,
people can be patient, we can be patient with ourselves, and that's going to create a better outcome anyways. Because what's
right.
the point of coming in on your day off to work if by that day you're burnt out and you're tired and you're checked out and that's not good for either.
Well, you're also talking about the quality of the work that you put out there. When you're burned
Yeah.
out, your quality of work, you're going faster because you're just trying to get done with the day. And
Hmm.
this life is a journey. What's the end game? Death? Okay, let's enjoy the journey the entire time. We are so fortunate to be able to choose our schedules and to choose the style that we do and get paid and pay our bills with this type. Like we
Hmm.
draw on people all day. We get to hang out with our friends. If you're really, if you're really intentional with that type of artwork, you get to attract the type of people that want that and resonate with who you are and things like that. So it's like drawing on friends all day, and
Yeah.
it's really a beautiful thing. And so if you're not honoring that boundary with like your own clients too, like you like you said, they don't understand your boundaries yet until you set them.
Hmm.
And it's nothing personal. Like you can't take it personal when someone's being pushy. You just got to be like, hey, they just don't understand yet. Let me help them understand. Most times they do. The times that they don't, they're just not for you. Don't force
Hmm.
people on yourself that aren't for you. Like it's
Yeah.
not worth the money, it's not worth the headache, it's not worth any of that.
That is such a good point. Yeah, I've learned that the hard way over the years. I'm like, no, like all the clients that I've worked with that I truly enjoy are the ones that are super patient and super respectful of the fact that I'm a human and things happen in my life and I need balance as well. Like we all just need to kind of have that basis of like, hey, we're all human, even though I'm offering a service, like things happen or I need days off too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think too, it's like it's an energy exchange when you're working with the client because you're not just doing tattooing, which is a strain on your mind and on your physical body, but
Mm-hmm.
you're also talking to this person and like holding space with them. And I always say that every tattoo is like a first date because you have this like stranger sitting in front of you, like, okay, cool, like, so tell me, like, what's up? Tell me about yourself. And that's always a beautiful thing. And I love that part of my job personally, but that also is taking energy from me. So I realize like if I work too many days in a row, by that third or fourth day where I'm burnt out, like my conversation, my mental capacity to communicate with my client is lower. And I'm like, oh, I'm not giving them the experience that I like to give people. And
Right.
so it's being mindful of that too. It's like when does your mental battery run out? And
Mm-hmm.
it's the whole package, you know. If
Right.
anything is affecting the whole package, like take some time in between. I think you and I take like we work 2 days and then a day off, which I think is a great balance
Yeah.
because it's like about 2 days
Mm-hmm.
of physical work and communicating and deep conversations with people, and then you're like, okay, I need a moment to like collect myself.
Right, exactly. And I think that a lot of times we are like, it depends on a lot of artists, but I feel like a lot of us are on the cusp of like extrovert introvert, where we find
Mhm.
ourselves almost like, hey, I can definitely be here and hold space for you in the room, but I do need my own time to refill my cup and to refill my own
Mhm.
energy and recharge my battery. And that's definitely me. I definitely have
Yeah,
that vibe. And
same.
so yeah, right. And so when it comes to giving that experience, as tattooers, we are, especially intentional tattooers, which is something that I am very, very passionate, and I know you are as well, about bringing to light to people. It's not just about turning and burning anymore.
Mhm.
We're moving away from that, and I think that as a collective, a human collective, a worldly collective consciousness, that being intentional with everything that you do is actually going to raise the vibration and basically bring positivity one tattoo at a time. And so that's how I
Mhm.
like to think about it. And if you guys are intentional with not only your tattoos, but with your boundaries and with the things that you do, you offer up so much more value to the people that you tattoo, that it becomes the type of experience where that someone will never forget, and that energy will just be spread out so beautifully. It can't even like I can't even tell you, like, it's scintillating to my fingertips. Like, I get like super like gooey about this kind of stuff, just because
Mhm.
I'm like, how much more can we spread that vibe and remember that that's why we're here on this planet. And so, and
Yeah.
so if we're not being intentional or honoring those times, honoring our boundaries, staying organized even with it. And that's another thing we should talk about, is like, how else can we get organized? Like, now they understand, it's like an understanding of like, okay, this is so good for me, but how do I do it with just taking the time off and the days off? And I'd like to think that, especially, as I teach, tattoo marketing and social media, it's one of those things. It's like planning your things out. How many times do you want to be posting a week? How many times do you,
Mhm.
and plan those out. See, for me, I plan everything out on a month in advance, and then I batch it. I take one day where I'm like, okay, I'm not tattooing today. I'm going to create all this content. I'm going to write out my intentional captions because I want to bring value to the people that are influenced by, follow and watch, and that's what I want to do. I want to bring intentional good value, and then that's over. Now I don't have to think about content, and that also intentionally helps me take actual time off, and gives
Mhm.
me time to just be gentle with myself and be like, cool, everything's done. I'm good. I don't have to think about it. I also batch my designs for the week. Like, each week, I kind of like
Oh,
take a
wow.
day where I'm like, let me just do it. That's just my way. Since I do
Yeah.
like a abstract realism, I like to start it the week of, and then the night before maybe I'll tweak and like really get into it and really get excited about it and really just kind of get intentional with the piece, because I know I'm going to be spending all day with it tomorrow or like the next
Mhm.
day. But I
Mhm.
always like to start at the beginning, so I'm never feeling rushed or forced or out of time or overwhelmed the night before. And that's
That's
just,
good.
yeah, so those are the two things that I would say as far as getting organized. What would you offer in that
Well,
regard?
I'm gonna steal that last idea because sometimes, like, it is, I like doing it the night before because it really gets me in the zone. So it's all I'm
Mm,
thinking about. And then I go into the next day, like, just all, you
that's
know,
all. Mm,
all in it. And, but yeah, sometimes it is like a bigger design or a longer design. You're just like, oh my gosh, am I gonna finish? And
mm-hmm.
so I'm going to take that idea and practice that and see if that works better for me. But yeah, I think it's a lot of finding out what works good for all of us. And if you're stressed out about any aspect of it, it's a sign that something's not working good for you.
Right.
But yeah, I think so. What the most challenging thing for me was answering emails and booking. Posting, I I feel like I found a balance with that pretty easy on, but I think the points you made are super important of like just kind of planning it out, making sure that you have an idea of like, okay, I'm gonna post like two or three tattoos and then like two personal things, and this is what I want to say. So I do the whole like the apps where you kind of pre-plan and like put
Yes,
things,
yeah,
yeah, and
yeah,
that's really
good.
helpful. So if anyone's not already doing that, it's like a great way to start.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, like emails was the hardest thing for me, like getting like booking people. So I know a lot of people still book through IG or phone number, and
Yeah.
I found that to be really stressful personally. So I moved it over to strictly email as soon as I could, which I think it's just an easier way to stay organized. So that way you have everyone's name. You can just click on it and have all their information of their reference photos, their description, and everything is just right there. And I think, and I'm still open to ideas with this because I have an assistant now who helps me, but how to manage, the influx. Like if you have more than you are able to book in a 3 month period, what do you do with the leftovers? Or like how do you create a wait list? Or do you just kind of shut your books and then let them know like, hey, when I announce that they're open again, you can reapply and definitely like we'll try to get you in for the next round. So
I
I think
think
that's been challenging.
so. This is something that I'm very adamant about with artists in when I have my crew with Inspired and when I do the group coaching and the course and everything, is that it's to have having an email wait list and having that automated. So getting like something like MailChimp or something like that, that where you collect, like you have your assistant collect all the email addresses and then just sends them into this bucket. And what sends them into this bucket was even better because instead of relying on IG, hey, my books are open, because not everybody gets to see that post sometimes. It's your actual email wait list. So then you're almost honoring the people that are on your wait list first, because those were the ones
Mm-hmm.
that took the time to add, hey, here's my email address. Here's my personal email address. I don't want spam. I want you to have it. I think that's very valuable. And I think that's almost like honoring. You're like, wow, it's like giving me your phone number. Like,
Mm-hmm.
And so now that I have this piece of information, how about instead I reach out to the people on that wait list and be like, hey, my books are opening, da 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 da. I haven't announced it on IG yet. And that almost gives incentive for people to want to go onto your email wait list. And then that's automatically automated. So anybody that like is in the realm like yourself that our books are closed, have a link that says but get on the wait list. And
Mm-hmm.
instead of saying like, hey, books are closed, and then you're shutting people off and they almost feel like, well, okay, I guess I'm never going to get in their books. Or like, instead it's like, oh, get on the wait list. It's like, ooh, I have a chance. And that
Mm-hmm.
gives people that psychological incentive that it's like, wow, I could actually potentially get tattooed by this person. Like, that's so
Mm-hmm.
exciting, instead of like, we're closed, kind of situation. And so that's why I think words are very powerful in the way that that's the reason why I never say books are closed. I'm always like, get on the wait list. Books are opening soon, or
Mm-hmm.
books will be open in a few months, because I do think that that also allows people to feel welcomed and comforted. And then you go into it, and then they have an email wait list, and then that wait list gets nurtured with emails or updates or openings that you might have or something like that, or you're traveling and you're like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
so you have this bucket of people that are like so stoked to get a hold of you. And now you're not having to answer all the emails anymore yourself. You actually, no emails come at all during the time your books are closed, but you are still collecting, you are still nurturing that email wait list. And
Mm.
then when you're open, then you can go ahead and send it out. So
Okay, I'm gonna pick your brain on this because you've
let's
done
do
this
it.
longer
You
than I
have my
have,
brain, baby.
and I'm still learning.
Yeah.
Okay, so with that,
Mm-hmm.
what if that wait list gets so long that you never really get the chance to fully open your books? Because I've noticed personally, as I'm doing bigger pieces, that means one person is going to be 4 sessions.
Right.
And so that's taking up, more days. So it's like less people that I
Right.
can tattoo. And
Mm-hmm.
so I've had an issue with the wait list getting really long and me being like, am I ever going to open them again? Or is it just always going to be waitlist clients? And so that's my first question. Second question is, what do you do with inquiries that are not maybe the best fit for you,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's stylistically or whatever the case may be?
Sure. I think that in this particular boundary, it would be as your wait list gets bigger, you can do one of two things. I think that you can either, as not just yourself, but anybody else, but I do have a backup answer to this, is that you can raise your prices, and then you can cater to the people that are like, okay, this is, and then it kind of like dwindles out some of the people. However,
Mm-hmm.
that sometimes can go to a point where you're like, wow, how much do I have to raise them to get them to a point where it's so low? And then I don't want to remove myself from a point where people don't feel like they can't get tattooed by me. And so I think that another way to do this, and if you are up for it, it would be teaching someone how to do your style of art that's really passionate about your style. an apprentice, and that might not be in
Yeah.
the realm of where your journey's at in this moment. But I always find that like I love being able to be like, hey, you know what, stylistically, I might not be the person, but I have someone for you,
Mhm.
or something like that. So like I'm always, if it's not for me, I'm such like a helper. I'm like, where can I find someone that can do this, that would
Yeah.
be just as great, and I could vouch for that person or something like that. And so
Hmm.
um, I feel like those are the two things right now. I think I would have to be really quite honest with you. I'm still navigating through that myself. Where is it, like, where's the stopping point on the pricing? And then where do I send people, or what do I do with those kinds of, like, that type of, like, for me, it at the end of the day, when it comes to emails, it comes from energy at the end of the day. I'm
Yeah.
like, but if it's style, we're great. It's the topic, the foundation, awesome, I'm ready. Then I
Yeah.
just look at the email and I'm like, are we gonna match as like a
Hmm.
personality? Like we're dating, like you said, like
Yeah.
how do we match? So that's kind of like where I go when it comes to the choosing. But
Hmm.
your style is actually pretty difficult considering that it is ornamental or black work or dot work. And so with mine it's a little bit different. It's like abstract realism is kind of a smaller group where you
Yeah.
do like, I almost like, I have so many ideas for you particularly that we can get into a little later, but like
Okay.
but it's almost one of those things where it's almost like where your intuition is taking you, in
Hmm.
that regard. So yeah, those are
Definitely.
tough ones. But for everybody out there that's listening, I do think that understanding that like having the wait list gets rid of the emails and then keeps you less time, less busy, keeping that boundary. And then when you do open it up, if there's so much, raising the prices can be one thing, having an apprentice can be another thing, or having backup people that you could send them to is a great way as well. So.
That's a great point. Yeah, I've definitely taken use of referring artists who I know personally who do similar style to what, I was doing before that I'm slowly like transitioning out of or, reforming in my own way and just sending their name to people and being like, I know they're going to do a great job and this is a better fit for you. But I love the
Mm-hmm.
intuitive choosing. I think
Yeah.
like you can feel the energy the minute someone reaches out and you can already feel like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
this person is really genuinely like coming to me because they want me versus people that are just looking to get a tattoo that maybe they could have done by someone else. Um, and it's not as personal. And I
Right.
think I was going to make another point about emails. Oh, yeah. One really good tool that I started using a while back that I know some people still aren't using is having an auto response or at least a pre-typed um, like questionnaire of all the information you're going to need from them and all of your information as far as
Yeah.
pricing, location, and how you operate, and just
Mm-hmm.
give that to them. So that way there's not this back and forth of like, what do you want? And they tell you, okay, how big? Okay, can you send me a picture of references? It's like that was just too much in the beginning. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. So I think if anyone's not already doing that, that helped a lot, just so that way you can get to the point, see everything in your face. You'll know right then and there, like, is this a good fit for me? Is this something that I can do, want to do, should do? And then just after that, all you have to do is like figure out dates.
Right. No, and I think that's a big part of the organizational aspect of it is that if there are things that you guys out there that you don't want to do, that's something so easy as like such as like an email and the back and forth, automation is the name of the game. We have so much wonderful technology out there that helps us automate that side of the business so that we can continue on doing the part we love doing, which is the creating part. And
Mhm.
the emails, that bogs us down. That goes like cuts, cuts, cuts. And so it's like a huge thing. I want to take the weight off of my own shop. Like, I'm like, I don't want any of you guys doing emails. Let me hire someone to do that.
Yeah.
That actually has the personality type that actually likes doing that type of
Hmm.
nurturing and that type of uh like job description. And so
Hmm.
because I think that, but in this time where people are still doing it all themselves, find a way to automate it. That's just like my biggest advice is like, what is it that you constantly go back and forth with? Write all those things down, like you said. Have that as an email template. When someone writes to you, hey, I want to get tattooed by you, boom, send that email out. have them, they have to answer all these things. And then even put a disclaimer in there to create another boundary saying, hey, if these questions aren't completely answered,
Mm,
you're not going to get a response.
yeah.
So, you're saving yourself the time. You're also creating the boundary for yourself because you're not going to be willing. If someone wants to get tattooed by you, they are going to read it thoroughly. I just know that for a fact because there are people out there that are like, even when they're excited, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Send a whole second email with it exactly
Yes.
like that. I felt
I
that I
love
missed
those.
something. And then they're like, I'm so sorry. I forgot to add the photos of my arm. Here's the
Yeah.
whole thing again.
So
Please forget.
thorough.
Yeah, super thorough. So people are going to honor and respect. People want to be told what to do. Like, just
Mhm.
give them direction. They want to have the direction. Everybody wants to know how to get from A to B in a
Yeah.
very seamless manner. And if you can give that to them, you're not only saving yourself time, but you're saving them time as well from guessing. So that's
Yeah.
definitely going to be one of those things that helps immensely in anybody's business. Is just getting that shit automated and organized.
Communication, like, is the biggest thing because I
Yeah.
think often we
In
get
any
frustrated.
relationship, right? Like in
Yeah,
any
in
relationship.
anything. Like, if there's ever an issue or anyone's stressed, it's because there was a miscommunication somewhere about something. And also, communication is how we communicate our boundaries. And it doesn't have to be in the, like, these are my boundaries. It's like how you present your email, how you word it, letting them know, like, hey, if you don't answer all the questions, like, it's not going to be looked over.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like, I have an email I send out to follow up the week prior, which
Mm-hmm.
basically like walks them through like, hey, be hydrated, get a good night's sleep, bring snacks if you want. I have a fridge or there's stuff around and like this is the address, this is where you're going, here's
Yeah.
how parking works in this area. Like walk them through it because it shows extra care and compassion for the experience. It makes it even more professional. But in the end, it makes your life easier because then they're not asking you tons of questions. It's like it's all there.
Right.
And I also have another email I send out for tattoo care afterwards and
Yes.
walk them through everything with that too. And again, it's like, hey, drink lots of water after this. Like, don't go rolling dirt. Like, just everything that they need to know is there. And then that way you can be like, if you have any further questions, you can always contact me. But that's rarely going to happen because you've already given them all the information.
Exactly. So you've already answered every question that they may have because as tattooers that have maybe been in this 1 year, 3 years, 10 years, 20 years, we've already given them all this information that allows them to understand what they need without having to be like, oh, what's this question? Oh, what's this question? And
Hmm.
you're actually eliminating all the work from answering any more emails that don't need to be going back and forth because they're the emails, they're the questions that you get all of the time. And we have those questions. And so the fact that you have a 3-part system is already beautiful. I have the same thing. I even send them home with a little care package because I think people just love gifts.
That.
And so
Yeah.
I'm like, here is a little sweet recycled envelope with my little stamp emblem on there. And inside is your
Oh,
aftercare sheet. It's some ointment. It's also some wipes. And then it's all the things you need to do after and some stickers just for fun. Like,
oh
here's
my
a
gosh, I
gift.
love this.
Oh my gosh, I'll
Okay,
send you
wait.
one. And then I'll give you
I'm
the
gonna
idea.
copy this.
You definitely need to. I actually took it from someone from France. I was like, this is amazing. Like, I love this.
Yeah,
And it
I
just feels
love
like,
that.
and it's such a wonderful experience, but you're also giving them the information that they're going to need. And then on top of it, email just in case they lose it. It's like, boom, boom, boom. You've already created the beautiful experience. You're always going to want to come back. They're always going to speak so highly of you. You've given them a tattoo they'll live with forever, an intentional one, and probably a very therapeutic opening of communication. And then you've answered all their questions. So not only have you felt so good in the abilities of what you've created, not only as a tattoo, but as a whole experience, but you're
Mhm.
also giving yourself that room and window to just be like, cool, I did my job. I probably won't hear from this person unless they're just going to tell me how stoked they are. And
Yeah.
then, yeah, and then you're like, I've honored myself, I've honored them, I've saved some of my time, I've created boundaries, I'm organized. Now you're like, I can go surf or do whatever it is you like doing,
Yeah. Well, see,
and feel good about it.
and in doing that, it's like again, this ties back to the beginning where if you're giving yourself enough time to have these details and have this organization, then you can have this kind of experience. And with that, I think another issue a lot of artists have is they lack that abundance mindset of like, oh, if
Mm.
I close my books, if I turn people down, like what if I don't have clients one day? And we've all had that at some point. And that's not going to be the case because if you're putting this much love and effort and good energy into how you're doing everything, how you're doing the art, how you're doing your process, how you're caring for your clients, of course you're going to have people coming back. You're fine-tuning your experience so that people know it's different than other experiences they've had elsewhere. And that's what you want. And if you have that, if you're offering something other people aren't offering, they're going to come to you. And so it's like creating the abundance in other ways outside of overworking yourself,
Right. And
drawing it in, attracting it.
exactly. Oh my gosh, you're just like, oh, my own heart. Like
I'm
it's just
just like you.
I just love you. Just
I
oh,
love
squidgy,
you.
squidgy. It's what you guys like. Exactly what Amber said is exactly that. Is that that mindset is 100% the most important thing in our business, in any entrepreneurial business, in anything. Honestly, you could be working corporate and it doesn't matter. But having that mindset that you are abundant, your success is inevitable. It's inevitable. You are always on the right path. You're always on the right journey. That mindset will constantly put you on the trajectory of creating an experience that is beautiful and honors you and honors your clientele. That there is absolutely no way you're not going to be successful. There's no way. Like, I just don't believe in that.
Yeah.
Personally, for me, I believe everybody deserves success. Everybody is a success. And we all, there's enough room for all of us. There's no competition. There's nothing like
Hmm.
that. And to be honest, one of those things where it's like you will have so much abundance and work that you're going to want to give it away and spread it out to others because or to give it to other people like you said is like oh friends of yours that you could send to and things like that. And so I find that really beautiful, and I love that you mentioned the abundance part of it because that is such a big deal. It is so hard to let go of that scarcity mindset where we're like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to get work, or I'm not going to have work this day. Like, what if this person cancels on me? Like, things like
Hmm.
that. And that's the reason why these processes, you guys, is so important to your business because not only are you doing the productivity, the masculine side of things, but you're also
Hmm.
honoring the feminine side of things by having the abundance, by looking inward and understanding that by honoring yourself, you're honoring everyone around you. And so
Hmm.
I just, oh, I love you for
Yeah.
saying
I mean, it's the name of the game, and I think this is why we click so well is like we see it in that way and it's worked. I like you said, it works. It just you get what you give.
mm-hmm.
And again, that ties back to the beginning. It's like you can't give if your cup is empty. So if
Exactly.
you fill your cup constantly and you're giving, then you're gonna it's gonna come back. You got to trust in the cycle. It's like the way of life.
Right.
There's no way it's not
It's
gonna work for you.
it's just trusting in the process, and it's trusting and being patient as well. That like
Hmm.
things ebb and flow. We all are a cyclical, very seasonal. We're seasonal animals. Like we are not meant to go, 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 go all the time. And without
Hmm.
honoring that space for us to not go, we lose it, we overwhelm, we get, it's all these things. So it's actually you understand the mindset part of it. And when you get into that abundance mindset, then you get into inspired action. And that inspired
Hmm.
action helps you honor, and then it does a circle. And then you're constantly at peace with this circle. And
Yeah.
when people do cancel, you don't look at it as like I'm losing money. You now look at it as wow, I get a day off today to go do what I was meant to do
You
today.
just read my mind. I was gonna bring that up because I got like I thought of that and I was like, oh yeah, there was a point where, in the beginning, if I had a cancellation, like, oh my gosh, my finances, like you're fine, you'll figure it out. And
Oh my
now when it happens, I'm like, okay, cool. I'm gonna like just fill my cup today and feed my
yes,
soul.
yes,
Or if I feel like I need to be productive, if that's where my heart is that day, then you can be productive with art still. You can do some drawing, do some studying, and still, like, who knows, maybe that day you draw a sleeve or a back piece that you're going to end up doing on someone. And so it's like, it's not a loss. You can turn it into a gain.
right. And it's the funny thing is that it's like it's all about the perspective. There
Yeah.
are a million perspectives that you can take out there, and what you choose to take is where your feelings and emotions will go, and it is what
Hmm.
you will do for that day. And so that's
Hmm.
why having the balance is such a huge deal, and understanding what that balance is. And so it's not just like work life balance, like external balance, it's external internal balance. And that's what we're trying to get at, guys. It's like me and
Yeah.
Amber, we are still, like, I'll speak for myself, I'm still finding that balance.
Oh yeah,
And it's a
it's like
constant
constant.
journey.
Yeah,
But
like
like at the same time, it's one of those things where we're like, it's the journey that counts. It's the part
yeah.
where it's understanding and learning and growing and evolving and changing. And if this doesn't work, let's try this instead. And so it's
Hmm.
never, there's no right or wrong. It's not like, oh, you're getting it right or you're getting it wrong. It's follow the physical internal feeling
Yeah.
and then go from there. And so that's why, and then there's so many other things that involved, like how healthy we eat. And you and I, we don't drink either. You don't drink either. And so it's like we
No,
also, like,
really.
we've chosen some paths and journey parts to it. Like we chosen some paths because we're like, ooh, I feel really connected to my body. How else can I feel more connected to her or
Hmm.
him or whatever? And then it's like, then it gets so addicting. And to that
Oh
point, then you're
yeah.
following the internal so much more that the external just kind of comes. And then we spread it. And then that's how we all can spread it. We all need to spread this good sugar. Too
You just
good.
spread it everywhere. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's about feeling good. It's
Yeah.
always about feeling good, whether it's the exercising, the way you eat, the way you manage your time, the way you manage your stress. It's like, what can I do to make myself feel good? And that ties back into the whole point of like, if you're overworked, if you're stressed out, you're not feeling good. So nothing's going to go good. Nothing's
Mm-mm.
going to feel good, even if you're doing something that makes you happy, because you internally don't feel at your best. And yeah, I love that you said it's a constant journey because it is. Like, I even had a moment this morning where I was needing to create balance, and I'm like, oh, what's different now though is I have all these tools. So I think
Yes.
that's what we're trying to do is give tools because it's not like the the challenges don't stop. You're going to
Mm-hmm.
constantly get tested on this, but it's if you have the right tools, if you know when to feel into boundaries and how to use them, then you remain balanced. It's not like you just stay like this. You're going to be doing this forever. But like some people are like doing this and it's too much. And it's like, you got to just kind of come back in here and you're going to feel a lot better. And so I think, yeah, just giving people ways of maintaining that. And again, it starts with the perspective. That's so important is everything is an opportunity. Everything is this is happening or and then you can shift the dialogue completely and change your mind and it turns out so differently.
Absolutely. I love that you touched on the topic that it's a constant, we are constantly going to be challenged because that is such a thing that people just assume that, you see people on Instagram and they're just all this, and this or whatever. But we have, well, me personally, I never like to speak for everybody or anybody, but it's just like for me personally, the what reason why I can feel that way is because of the tools that I
Hmm.
have learned, experienced, or things like that to help me get to the point where I now can choose how I want to see things or how I want to do
Hmm.
things. And that choice gives me the, again, inspired action to go ahead and move forward with the path that makes me feel least resistant. Like, to be honest,
Yeah.
this life isn't supposed to be hard. This job isn't supposed to be hard. None of it's supposed to be hard. We just create hardness because we create worry, overwhelm, burnout,
Mm.
stress, and all of these things within us because we believe societal conditioning has taught us to believe that that's where we need to be to feel productive, to
Yeah.
feel worthy. And that's why beliefs, balances, understanding your own body, what feels actually good, not egoically good, but actually good. So
Hmm.
it's like you have to find all these balances. And so with that, I'd say for me personally, the tools that I utilize, I am very Virgo in the way where I am a rigorous, regimented human being, and things need to be done every day for me to feel really, really alive and in tune with my
Hmm.
own body. So, this is just my own personal journey. And for others out there, you find what works for you, but try it all. Like for me,
Hmm.
exercise 6 days a week is a thing. I need that at
Yeah.
4:30 in the morning, every morning, whether it be surfing, running, or actually going to the gym, Pilates, or yoga. All those things. And then meditation for at least 10 minutes
Hmm.
before I go to work or before a tattoo, and then journaling at night. That helps. Those three things help me every single day. I have affirmations here and there. Visualizations don't really work for me. I can
Yeah.
write things down in my journal and I'm just like, okay, this is my projection. I definitely like to understand where I want to go, but how I get there is not up to me. I just trust the
Hmm.
process and try and go into inspired action and do it that way. So if there is a way to help you get to that point where you guys want to find maybe something um, to help you find that little more balance and self-care and like not all the
Hmm.
chatter in your mind that's telling you that you shoulda woulda did do a be all these things, those are mine. But what would yours be? I'm
I
curious
mean,
to know.
I love all of those and I do all of those, except I don't wake up at 4:30. That is where I cannot match your energy, Reese. But I
You
do
should,
all of those
nobody
things.
does.
I used
Nobody
to be
does.
really good about that. When I was apprenticing, I would wake up a lot earlier because I had no other choice but to like have it done at 5 a.m.
Right, right,
So yeah, but it takes discipline to do all of these things,
right.
which is a big part of the importance. But for me, I mean, I'm pretty regimented as well. Like I need to work out to feel good. I need to get
Mhm.
the angst, the energy, the stress out of my body through sweat and movement. And I do the journaling, I do the meditation every day. I think that's really important. I think all of these things are key for creatives too, because if you're not shutting off your brain, like the thoughts and the chatter, then how are you supposed to allow creative ideas to flow through? So
Mhm.
being really mindful of your mind
Mhm.
and where it's at and its health. I do, yeah, like just find hobbies, like healthy hobbies, like stretching, caring about your body, especially in this industry, doing something to care for your body is
Yeah.
really important. We're like hunched over all day,
Oh
so
my
we're
God.
carrying stress. So if you're
You should
doing
have seen
this,
the post Caleb made of me yesterday. She
I
said
saw it.
the
Your posture was
The
horrible.
Fibia, what is that called?
The Fibonacci
The
sequence.
Fibonacci. I was like,
Oh
wow,
no.
that's my back right now. I get chiropractic acupuncture, I do
Same.
yoga, like I do all the things, but this is how it ends up. But I'm like, okay, let's breathe again. Like let's
It's First of all, it's physically impossible to tattoo with good posture. You can't like do this all day. It's just not going to happen. So when you're not tattooing, if you're doing other things to mind your posture, then I think that's the best you
I
could
think we
do.
can. But yeah,
Yeah.
that is a good idea though. I do think that that's a self-care aspect for sure, is by adding
Hmm.
it's by understanding that by not only investing in yourself, which is investing in your body, which is also self-care, is education, all the things, but also physical health and physical
Yeah.
wealth. Like for me, physical wealth is understanding that I do need a massage once a month at least. I
Oh
do need
yeah.
chiropractic. I do need acupuncture. And then for my mind, I have a therapist and an
Hmm.
energy healer and all of these things, and then for my
Hmm.
business, so I'm constantly feeling like it's always, you're never going to regret in investing in your physical wealth and in your mental health and even in your business. So I think that
Yeah.
that is a high recommendation for people out there that are, especially as tattooers, that are constantly like this, drawing, designing. We don't have, a lot of us don't have designated workspaces to draw that makes us good in
Hmm.
posture. So we're like on our couches
No.
or
Yeah.
dining room tables, feeding our
No.
kids at the same
Yeah.
time as trying to get our work done. So it's very, very important to be investing in yourself as well. And that comes again with abundance mindset and knowing that it's always going to come back to you, because money is just a tool. Money mindset is a big
Hmm.
thing as well. But
Yeah. And I
well,
love that
so let
you
me, no, go ahead.
I was going to say, I love that you brought that up because it came up earlier this week too of like, you need a certain amount of finances to be able to invest in these things. Like now, I'm at a place in life where like that's kind of all I invest in outside of like, food and housing is these forms of healing and self-care. But there was a point where I couldn't afford those things. So for anyone that's at that point currently, I would suggest meditation is always free. Being outside is always free and books are really affordable.
Yeah.
So those are great tools to start getting you in the path and like shutting off your brain to sit down and like physically read a book or to just shut off and meditate, which is not easy at first, but just give yourself time and have patience with yourself and keep trying. But I
Yeah.
think those are the best ways to get people going, and finances can't be an issue there.
And one last thing for the meditation part of it, you guys, there's a lot of free guided meditation on YouTube, a lot of them. So you just
Mhm.
look up guided meditation for free. I use the Calm app. I think it was like, I don't know, $50 for the year. And even if that's too much, like I would say that go on YouTube, do the easy thing. And there are plenty of people out there that can do that. And it's 5 to 10 minutes out of your day is really nothing. And what did Buddha say? If you don't have 5 to 10 minutes, maybe you should spend an hour doing it.
Yeah.
Like, so, any for the last part of this, since we are at our hour, is there anything else you would like to say?
Um, just want to let people know, like, care for yourself. If you're feeding your soul and your heart, then you will be able to give more and create more and have more abundance. So start making yourself a priority
Yeah.
and value your health and tune in with yourself to what feels good and what doesn't feel good and listen to yourself. Like, give yourself that love and care that we give our clients and the people around us. Do it for you too, because at the end of the day, you've got to have 100% if you want to give 100%.
Hey, Reese. I love it. I love you so much. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna text you after this is done. But thanks everybody for coming in, and I'm going to be adding this to my post. So if you didn't get to watch the whole thing, you can go ahead and rewatch it and all that jazz. But Amber, I love you so much. I can't
Thank
wait to do this
you.
again with you, and you have an awesome and most beautiful rest of your day.
I love you. I'll talk to you soon and thank you for having me.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.